Hello and welcome to this episode of the Excalibur podcast, hosted by me, Kyle Brooks. Today we have a phenomenal guest. You're in for a treat. His name is Guy Winks. He is retired Special Forces. He is probably one of the best mentors that I've ever had in my entire life. He is a father to a nation of 8 people, and honestly, one of the best people that you'll ever meet in the world. Welcome, Guy.
Oh, thank you.
It's about
that was
time.
quite an intro.
Yeah, it's about time that you actually came onto the actual show. I've been waiting for you to come into this podcast for a while, sir.
I think it's pretty cool that you're doing this. This is glad you're doing something.
For sure. And at the end of the day, I think the best stories that I've ever heard have come from you. They are very animated and basically just your life in general.
I should write a book.
You should write a book. I'm still waiting for it. I was writing, what's it called? The quotes from Guy Winks. Sex is like pizza. Sometimes you get mellow mushroom, sometimes you get frozen, but pizza is still pizza.
Hey, let's make sure the podcast doesn't get me in trouble with my wife. So, yeah, life is stories, man. That's what it's about. Is stories, creating your own. Got to exaggerate a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen your life, and I think that you live one of the greatest stories ever.
I was blessed. I've done so many cool things.
Right.
I look back and I'm just like, wow. Like, if I do write a book, nobody's going to believe it.
I believe it.
And the name will be Just a Cook. That's what I've come up with. I think that's
it's a great tagline.
Yeah, because that's what I always heard. Sometimes was like, just a cook.
Right.
And then, but then, I've jumped out of planes, mountaineer course, and extreme cold weather training, and all this really fun stuff I've gotten to do.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, they say in the military that every day is either you're telling yourself, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah.
Or I do not get paid enough for this. And every day is a flip of the coin over what kind of day it's going to be.
Okay.
And I've found that to be true. But I will say this too, is when I look back on the days where it was like, I don't get paid enough for this, I now look back fondly at most of those memories.
Yeah.
So
just coming into that point is like, what you go through, you grow through, because when you look back, those are the things that defined you and made you an even better person, which is what I tell a lot of people.
And for sure.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of mistakes, but those mistakes are what you learn from. And I wouldn't be the husband I am now if I hadn't gone through some divorces, unfortunately, I'm that guy that made every mistake you can make. And that's where the advice comes from. You
Right.
can't be old and wise until you're young and stupid, I think.
Right. But that said, you've got that, not just that experience, but also you've never lost your hopeless romanticness. That is something that I find amazing, because you got married and remarried quite a few times, and every single time you've just become a better person throughout that entire process.
I'm really glad that I've tried to be self-aware. I think that's really important, man. Be self-aware. If you've been married a few times, I mean, when I hear people say, all these women they were all bad, or all these men were bad, I'm like, what was the common denominator,
Right.
And I had to take a hard look at myself and go, what was the common denominator? Because every wife I had in the past, they were amazing women.
Right.
I was the common denominator of why they weren't working.
So that's an interesting question there. So how did you become self-aware? What did you do? Were you writing? Were you journaling? Because I know that you're one of the people that is very habitual with everything that you do. You're very rudimented. Like, you wake up at the same time every single day, regardless if you went to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. You always wake up at the same time. You have your outfit for the day specially made.
I think I think I'm probably ADHD or ADD. I don't even know what the right term for it is nowadays. But when I was young, they didn't have that. I was just a dipshit. That's what they called it.
Okay.
And I'll get up to go across the room to do something, and when I get there, I'm like, oh, what did I get up to go do? And so, in order to combat that, I just try to be very, regimented about certain things.
Mm.
I put my keys in the same place, things in the same pocket of the same bag, and things like that.
Yeah.
Routine helps.
Okay.
Maybe more productive, I guess.
So coupling that, was that something that you utilized to become more self-aware? Were you journaling? How were you reflecting?
No, I didn't. Sure, I read a lot though. I read a lot.
Yes.
A lot. I probably read at least a book a week.
You're one of the people that I've never seen that many books that have actually been read.
Yeah, and you know what? I was lucky. I can read really fast,
mm-hmm.
and I love to read anything I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
Fiction, nonfiction, just about anything.
Mm.
And maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I do know this. I am petrified of being oblivious. I see parents being oblivious to their kids and husbands being oblivious to their wives. Like you'll see, and I've always been petrified of that.
Right.
So I'm always, I guess questioning myself. Am I doing, is this the right thing? Let me reflect on this. Is this the right way to react? And I try not to have knee-jerk reactions.
Yes.
I think there's a time and place to get mad,
yeah.
right? Somebody told me once that getting mad is easy,
mm-hmm.
but getting mad at the right person at the right time and to the right degree is very difficult, and I found it to be true.
Yeah.
But I've also decided that that's the kind of person I want to be.
Yes.
If I yell at one of my kids, it's because I choose to.
Right.
I choose to, bark a quick, nope, don't do that.
Yeah.
Or something, not because I've,
it was something else that
I don't want it to be a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
I wanted to decide in my head, okay, I'm going to go ahead.
You don't carry things very often, though. That's one thing I noticed, because you had the most difficult job managing a group of strippers, basically herding cats, essentially.
Yeah.
And most of the time, especially because a couple of us got drunk, a couple of us did this and that, and you basically were able to get us all together without losing your cool the majority of the time. There was once or twice that I've seen you actually blow up, and that's the only times when it's people that are actually not doing what they're supposed to be doing and following the procedure. So how did that translate into your life, and how did you come across actually developing that? Because that's something people don't have. They don't have that self-control. They don't have that self-awareness. They don't have the ability to dial into what they are feeling at that moment and then focus on what it is.
Okay, so I think things happen in a sequence. An event happens,
mm-hmm.
and you have an immediate emotional reaction,
right?
Or an emotion.
Yes,
and then, which leads almost immediately to self-talk.
Yep.
And so when I feel like I want to get mad.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I self-talk and go, okay, do I need to be mad at and I've done it for so long that I can do it pretty fast.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, is this something I need to be mad about? A lot of people, they shouldn't be acting that way. Well,
right.
Should they? I mean, no, are you going to get mad at a kid for being a kid?
Right.
Now, no, I'm not saying you have to accept unacceptable behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to be mad about it. I can just say, hey, no, don't do that. Hey guys, like you said, trying to get you guys some, 3 or 4 guys drunk. Like, okay guys, here's what I need. Clap the hands real quick. And, but I don't have to be offended by it. I don't have to take it as a personal insult. And sometimes that's what happens. People, somebody isn't doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And people may almost take it as an insult.
Yes.
Why are you doing that? And, why would you, a couple of y'all have had drinks and you're acting up, we're at a show. Why would you not be kind of having fun? And, so it's not my job to yell at anybody. It was my job to keep the show rolling right along. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So
I liked what you said there. You said you differentiated between the person and the behavior. So you separated that. So you say, don't be mad at the kid for behaving a certain way. It's the behavior, not the
Yeah.
actual.
And to be honest, I don't even need to be mad at the behavior.
Right.
But that, doesn't mean I have to accept the behavior.
Yes.
I can tell my child, hey, what are you? It can even be funny.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter will do something, and I'll laugh at her and go, you silly, you can't do that. You better cut that out.
Right.
Or I'm going to get you, and then I'll tickle her, but I still, hey, don't do that.
And so it's pulling it back in line. However, it's doing it in a way that is loving and kind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of times you see parents they'll get really offended when their kid acts up.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? I mean, why do you think they're doing it?
Because they're kids. They want attention. Yeah.
Nighttime, they got a lot of energy. Don't get mad. Like, you know what? Take an extra 5 minutes and let them jump on the bed. And the people always say, oh, you're getting them hyped up. Maybe you're tiring them out.
Yeah.
Obviously they got to get that out of your system.
Definitely. Squats. Give them some squats to do.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is just me giving experience. What's worked for me.
Which is what one of the topics that I actually spoke about last week was that there's a difference between qualification and implementation. Right? Somebody can have a degree and they can still be an idiot.
Oh, yeah.
But experience, you can't trump that because that person learned via knocking their head so many different times at different situations that they're not going to forget that instance. Like if you burn your hand on a plate, you're not going to forget the fact that you burnt your hand there, and you're going to be careful.
Yeah. Same
instance.
Another thing I've found too is like people are so different. I have 8 kids, right?
Yes.
8 kids, and they don't require the same type of discipline. And that's just my kids.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people can't see much farther than the nose on their own face.
Yes.
And so, like, for example, there's a couple of my kids I gave them a whack on the butt.
Right.
Some of my kids have never had one their whole life because they never did anything that warranted it.
Right.
So, I can say, oh yeah, Logan, for example, he's 24 now. He's never had a spanking.
Right.
Ever in his life. So does that mean I don't believe in it?
No.
No, it's just he never did anything.
Yes.
And some kids are like, you can, raise a kid and never lay a hand on him. Some kids might need a whack on the butt to be like, no, you got to get right back on. You don't got to be mean about it.
Right. Yeah.
And some people may disagree with me, but that's just what I found.
I agree with you 100%. What was worse, right? Okay, so coming to that story, my mom, she just used to whack us out of like anger because of the situation.
Yeah.
But my dad, he would sit down with us and then he'd first explain what we did wrong until we understood what we did wrong, and then he'd give us a whack. And that to me was worse than just getting the whack. I would be like, just give me a beating.
Yeah. All kids are all different.
Yeah.
And here's what happened is people out there will have they'll have one kid who never did anything that warranted a spanking. And so they'll go, oh, it's easy to raise a kid. And then it's like, yeah, because you had a good kid. You know what I mean? Not that they're all good, but, I'm a psycho, right? And I married a couple of psychos. We had psycho kids, right? And it just,
Yeah.
Which actually, I tried like 2 things, I think, shape a kid, nature and nurture.
Yes.
Heredity and environment.
Yep.
So some of my kids, they're a spaz like me. So I doubly have to be calm around them, because you set the example for your kids. So have you ever seen somebody that's like, why are you so high strung?
Yes.
100%. Hey man, why do you think?
You're leading from the example there. Yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'll see sometimes, a boring person with a boring guy with his boring wife, and they have a boring kid, right? And then they're just like, it's so easy to just raise children. It's like, no, I want advice from the spaz man who had spazoid kids. How did you make it, man? Yeah. What did you do?
Chokeholds.
Yeah. So.
No, awesome. So tell us a little bit more about what you've gone through and how you developed into the person that you are. Because like I said, you're one of the mentors that I look up to as a man from when I met you in 2017 till now, which is what, 8 years? Holy crap, it's been 8 years. Damn.
I know the older I get, they start flying by, man.
Yeah.
Man, just in a nutshell, I was born and raised in suburbia. You know, I had parents who were married, stay-at-home mom. She didn't even drive,
Wow.
and it was kind of bliss. And then at about 11 or so, it all kind of like went sideways. They got a divorce, and then that followed with a couple of years of some serious instability. And then, long story short, my brothers and I all end up in foster homes, and I ended up emancipated at 17.
Wow.
And then I became a male stripper at 18. And I was working at a car wash, and a guy there was like, you should check this out. And I went with him to a show, and it was in Cleveland, Ohio. And there was a bunch of older women.
Yep.
And they were like, when are you dating? I was literally freshly 18. And they were like, when are you gonna, and I was like, and they're buying me drinks.
Okay.
And I did one song. I did Prince, When Doves Cry.
Okay.
And made like $400, and I was hooked. I was like, I'm gonna do this the rest of my life.
Right.
And so I did that for 2 years.
Damn. Okay.
And then I realized, okay, I can't really do this for the rest of my life. This would be a great second job.
Yes.
So I joined the Army.
Right.
So I decided to join the Army. And, in the Army, I did not, I initially came in as a medic. Okay. And then I got hurt right before basic training, and I couldn't leave, and I had to wait 3 months before I left. And so I remember, the recruiter was like, man, you got to pick a new occupation. And I was like, and I scored really high in the ASVAB. I have like a 124 GT score.
Wow.
So I could have any job I wanted.
Right.
And, but the recruiter looked at me and he goes, man, cook or mechanic? And I was like, well, I had worked in a bunch of restaurants as a teenager.
Okay.
I said, well, okay, I'll be a cook.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I came in as. And I ended up in a field artillery unit, slinging hash. And I was like, I'm not happy here, man. And then it was like 1994. And 10th Special Forces Group relocated from Massachusetts to Fort Carson, Colorado.
Okay.
And I'm seeing them walking, these Green Berets and these paratroopers walking around, and I was like, I want to be like these guys, man.
Okay.
This is awesome. And and I so what's funny is what got me into Special Forces was a cake.
A cake?
A cake, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you've ever even heard this story.
No.
So I went over to the Special Forces unit, and I went over to the dining facility, and I said, hey, I want to be over here. How do I get over here? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be over there anymore. And he said, how's your PT? I said, I maxed my PT test. How's your marksmanship? A shoot expert. And what about, because you have to go through a selection process, even to be support.
Right.
In Special Forces. And he's like, how's your land nav? I'm like, I'm good, And he said, do you know how to decorate cakes? And I did not. But I was like, sure. I said, yeah, of course.
Okay.
And he said, I need someone to do this cake for the grand opening of this new Special Forces compound. And none of my guys know how to do it. Oh, and I was like, I got you. I'll do it. Right? And it was this massive cake they wanted done with a big Trojan horse on it. I had no idea to do any of this, right? I said, I got it. And he goes, okay. He goes, I'll get you a letter of acceptance. Obviously, you have to pass. The PT standards are higher there.
Yep.
You have to maintain a much higher score than the regular Army.
Okay. And
then you have to do a land navigation course and a ruck march and all these different things, right? And you have to do that yearly in order to
Okay.
stay.
Special forces.
Yeah,
Damn.
and you get an identifier, an S identifier that you're, qualified to be support in special forces.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to where I was, and there was this one guy that I knew how to do that. So I went to him and I was like, "You got to teach me this shit right now." I was like, "I got to do this cake for this ceremony."
Yeah.
And so he did, and I did the cake,
Damn.
and they never knew. It took me all night. What now I can do today in like an hour.
Yeah.
It took me like 12.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a cake got me into special forces.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But you see what you took the risk. You said I can do it, and then
Yeah.
you went to go and find out how to do it there afterwards, which is amazing because a lot of people wouldn't. They would let that be their first stumbling block.
Yeah. And what I liked so much about being in special forces was things have changed now. It's gotten a little bit different because they were so shorthanded.
Mm-hmm.
They're so shorthanded now for support. So they've done away with the selection process. I don't even know if they're requiring people to be airborne anymore. Don't get me saying I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure though. But I got over there and I was, they were like, "Yeah, you ready for jump school?" Yes, I'm ready for jump school. And I got to go to jump master school, and I got to go to the mountaineer course, and I got to support scuba requalifications and all this great stuff, all the stuff that I wanted to do.
Right.
Because I loved cooking. I still love cooking. Obviously, that's what I do now.
Amazing cooking. Yeah, one of the best culinary people I've ever met.
And but I always loved being a soldier.
Yes.
And so I had the best of both worlds.
Right.
That was one of my favorite parts.
But you manufactured that for yourself by putting yourself in the right position.
And then I stayed there for like half my career.
Right.
Every time I would come down, you know what I did? I made myself indispensable.
Okay.
All the teams wanted me. And so whenever I would come down on orders, man, they'd be like, "Well, like, do you want to leave?" I go, "No." They would delete my orders. So
okay.
They didn't just do it for me. There was a handful of people that camped out in SF for a lot of years.
Right.
Just because, they invest a lot of time in you.
Yes.
So a lot of time and money in you.
It's that, and also because better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Because from that perspective, you were already giving them such high quality service, and being an integral part of the team. Why would they want to let you go?
And things have changed. It used to be back in the day if we got somebody assigned to the unit and they were crappy, we would get rid of them.
Okay.
And we would go down on Fort Carson had this thing called the Banana Belt because all the buildings were yellow.
Yeah.
We would, like, if there was a supply guy or a Kimdet or a rigger, not a rigger, can't really get rid of them, but cooks, we would take them down and dump them on the Banana Belt, and we would find a high-speed person down there and bring them. Yeah, we get rid of them.
Damn, okay.
Like, you don't want to go to jump school? Pfft, bye.
Wow, okay. Hell yeah.
And now I think they've changed it. Because what happens is, what I noticed is over the years, you're the people that can meet the standard would lower.
Yep.
And they would have to lower the standard.
So the standards have kind of, well, not dropped, but the maturity level, you say, was dropped a little bit with regards to that.
Yeah, that's what what I noticed.
Is that because of the fact that they've stopped taking like actual officers into it, and they went with just
because they were younger guys, I think. Because I was a dumbass when I was 18.
Yeah, we all
are. Yeah, but at the same time, the mission for the 18 series was too big. They needed them.
Yeah.
I remember in Iraq they were shorthanded, and so they were grabbing us sport guys, and we're doing patrols, and we're doing I was leading Albanian commandos on patrol. Well, at first I wasn't leading. At first it was me with another guy, and then they were like, "Okay, we're gonna pull him and just let you do it." And I'm just like, "Hey, I don't even speak Albanian." They're like, "It doesn't matter." So I just followed them guys around and just looked official.
But you were though. Like, so there's another thing. Any sort of situation that you get into, you always end up being like the leader, regardless if the people are taller, bigger, stronger, older than you. fall into that category. And I'm not saying that it happens because you assert yourself that way. It's rather just because of your demeanor. You've created this demeanor that people trust you automatically.
You know what? I think the first step to leadership is giving a shit about the people. You know, they say in the military, you know, there's is a non-commissioned officer, man. You got to accomplish the mission, take care of your people, and improve the organization.
Right.
Those three things in that order.
Okay.
Accomplish mission comes first, and take care of your people, and then improve the organization. When I say that is, you know, you can be a great leader when you're there, but you got to leave systems in place and, you know, operate SOPs, operating procedures, and continuity books and whatever. You got to, if you want a legacy to, you know, if you want things to run well after you leave, you have to, you know, put it in writing.
Right.
But what I've found is, if I concentrate on
the people,
taking care of people, they accomplish the mission.
Yes.
And man, and if you want people to trust you, just be trustworthy. Just care. You know, when you make a decision, put them first.
Right.
Don't put yourself first. And things kind of tend to work out. You know.
Yeah, because that has enabled you to take a team to the Olympics like twice, 3 times.
The Culinary Olympics.
Culinary Olympics, yeah. Well, still, it's the same. To me, it's the same thing because it's still a high standard of cooking. It's amazing. Like I've seen what you guys do.
Like I've been really lucky. I've been in the right place, right time. I've met a lot of great people, and I got involved with actually my very very first involvement with that was in the original first culinary school when I first entered the Army.
Okay.
And because, you know, I remember I talked about a kind of iffy childhood, right?
Yeah.
So I had a pretty colorful juvenile record.
Okay.
Let's say. And so when I first joined the military, once, you know, went to basic training, then I'd go to what's called advanced individual training. And I got stuck there after I graduated because they're like, your security clearance just to be in the Army is taking a long time because, you know, I had some stuff on there.
Yeah.
Anyway, while I was stuck there, I'm just basically doing details every day. And then they came one day and they said, hey, we need somebody to wash dishes for the Culinary Olympic team. And I went, the what? That's a thing? The Food Olympics? And I was like, I'll wash your dishes, you know? So I wanted to see this stuff, man. Yeah. And so I went in and I met a bunch of people that later on became mentors.
Okay.
And so I met all these guys and girls. And they're in there. I'm just watching. One of the first things I saw was this guy, retired Sergeant Major Mark Warren. At the time, he was a staff sergeant.
Yeah.
But he's got a jeweler's mirror.
Okay.
And dental tools, and he's making little tempered chocolate beer steins. Right.
What?
Yeah, and he was taking, you know, he was touching this little dental hook to a hot pot. Then he would touch the beer stein. Then he used tweezers and connect the little handle he had piped. You know, and it was I was like, that's insane. I can't believe what you're doing. This is the craziest shit I've ever seen.
Right.
And I'm watching these guys do these insane terrines of meat, you know, and that's just like force meats with inlays of different. It just looks like impossible to make.
Right.
And it was gorgeous.
Okay.
And so, because I had seen that, when I went on to Fort Carson, I was like, hey, is there a culinary team? And so I started entering different competitions, you know, and junior chef of the year and things like that. And so, and I did okay. I made a little name myself, won some competitions and stuff.
Yeah. And
then years later, because I was on Fort Carson for so long, and years later, a warrant officer named David Longstaff, who also, man, is an amazing leader, he came to Fort Carson, and he said, you know, who's the big culinary guy here? And someone was like, you need to talk to Winks.
Okay.
So he came and found me, and he said, hey, let's go compete at Fort Lee. I'd here in Virginia at, it's Fort Greg Adams now, formerly Fort Lee.
Yeah.
The largest culinary competition in the country is here every year.
Yep.
which I run it now.
Yeah.
So,
You were emceeing for a while, and now you're actually running the whole show.
yeah,
That's
well, I
amazing.
still MC it, but now I'm the co-chair of the whole entire show,
That is
um,
phenomenal.
which is cool. It's like full circle.
Yes.
So I came and I competed in that when I was younger, and then I stopped and I was concentrating. You know, I was doing a lot of trips with SF and throughout the late '90s and the early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
and so then later on he said, "Hey, let's come compete again." I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll go." And I learned a lot from him. And so '07 we went and I won some gold medals and stuff. And he goes, "Let's go back next year, and this time, you know, let's make you captain of the team. And let's win it all."
Okay.
And I was like, okay. So literally the week we got back in '07, we started preparing for '08. And then '08,
Wow.
we just destroyed. We went in there. I had such a great crew of kids. And we went in there and just ate them alive. We won almost everything.
Awesome.
And then that put this big spotlight on me in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got asked to join the Olympic team, the Armed Forces Olympic team, to go compete overseas.
Yeah.
And I got asked to go into the General's Aid program. And I got asked to do I did a TV show with the Army called The Grill Sergeants.
Okay.
So I got to host that. Oh, and then it was another program called Training with Industry. I got asked to apply for that, and so I did, and then and I got selected. So then I went to New York to the Culinary Institute of America, and I spent a year there as a military liaison,
Wow.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I worked there and went to school there for that year, and you can't walk. It's like Hogwarts for chefs, man. You can't walk 10 feet in there without learning something about food.
Okay.
And so, yeah, going there and winning that competition just blasted it. So then, let me see, 2010, I competed in an international competition called the Culinary Expo Gast, or the Culinary World Cup in Luxembourg City,
Mm-hmm.
in the country of Luxembourg. 2016, I went to the World Culinary Olympics in Erfurt, Germany. And then, let me see, and then in this year in January, I went as an advisor and I took a team over.
Wow.
So it's kind of wild. You go from like dishwasher to apprentice to it just,
To leading the team.
yeah. And I'm hoping, I'm trying, funding is bad right now. So I'm trying, I got it approved through legal in the military to
Mm-hmm.
accept donations
Okay.
and win prize money. And that we can now use that for funding for the Olympic team.
Beautiful.
Olympic team now, it's the Armed Forces team, not just Army. So I've got Coast Guard, Air Force, Navy, Marines. Everybody's on the team,
Okay.
and we've got it. We can accept donations, and we're doing a big fundraiser in Vegas in July,
Right.
called the Freedom Chef Challenge.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that we get enough money from that to turn around and fund these kids to go compete in 2026 in Luxembourg again.
Will people be able to sponsor you as well if they want to do?
So, like, it's kind of odd. Like, when we say sponsors, we can have donations,
Okay.
but it can't really be an official sponsor. We're not allowed to wear,
A patch or anything.
Coca-Cola or something. Like, we can't do that.
Okay.
Military.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the military.
All right.
But we can do events. And so the American Culinary Federation is going to sponsor this event called the Freedom Chef Challenge.
Yeah.
And they're going to do a bunch of teams of military chefs are going to have a cook-off against each other. And then they're going to have a big old dinner and a rock concert afterward. And they're going to just sell tickets to this thing and then donate the proceeds to us.
Awesome.
Which is super cool.
Awesome. Awesome. That's amazing. So before we leave, I want you to give the viewers at least one piece of advice for one, staying in shape, and two, because you've stayed in shape your entire life. Well, let's be honest, guy. Let's be honest. Compared to 99% of the people out there, you still look like freaking Jason Statham.
Yeah.
So, What is the one piece of advice that you can say for staying in shape, and then a reason behind that? Because at the end of the day, looking good is good, but being physically fit is translates into other parts of your life.
Well, the saying abs are made in the kitchen.
Yep.
That's very true. And one of the things I've noticed is everybody's different, man. You know, you got to find out what works for you. You get people that like to fast and people that do this, that, and the other. The one thing, though, that I've found across the board that seems to work for everyone is small portions.
Okay.
Small portions seem to work. Now, whether you're, doing a early morning, I prefer to fast the last part of the day. This was just me.
Okay.
I know people that fast all day and eat a meal at night, and they do great too.
Yeah.
Just remember that. Get advice from as many people as you can, and try different things until you find what works for you. What worked for me was high protein. I would eat probably about 5 meals a day from early morning. And my first meal would be a protein shake at 5 in the morning when I woke up. And then after PT in the morning, I would more protein. Typically, I used to do boiled eggs. I'd eat a dozen boiled eggs.
Yeah.
And then I would eat typically 2 meals at lunch. One at 11:30, one at about 1.
Okay.
High protein. So now at this point now I've had 4 meals.
Yeah.
And then maybe another protein shake. But I was done eating by 5 every day.
There we go. Okay.
And then again, that's just what worked for me is I never ate again past 5 o'clock. Nothing.
Right.
Ever. And I stayed pretty ripped for a lot of years by doing that.
100%.
And then small meals. Like if you just stick, man, small meals. It's hard to give one piece of advice because don't drink calories. Don't drink sugar really helps.
Yes, for sure.
That's now probably why I've put on some weight.
Okay.
Obviously I'm not stripping anymore, and really, man, that's the best diet is knowing you got to be naked in front of all these women on Friday night. There's nothing that will make you put that donut down. Like, you don't want to be embarrassed. Because women are mean, you know that.
Yes, 100%.
You'll have a 300-pounder telling you you're a fat ass. I'll be like,
what?
Because I've seen guys that are a little out of shape. You get a big old girl that'll just be like, you need to work out. It's like, oh, ouch.
Yep, that's happened. That's happened before. That's why I always lift them. You see, if you lift them, they don't think about that.
And now, you know what? I drink my coffee every day with my foo-foo creamer, which I love. I can't, you know what I'm saying? I just can't seem to ditch it. And
put whipped cream in there instead.
And no, you know what? I gotta want to do it.
Right.
And I just don't want to right now.
Okay.
I stayed ripped for so many years. I could be a little chubby now.
Yeah.
So can't be much more. My knees are hurting a little bit, but.
Well, one thing that I remember you telling me that I forgot how much it hurt was the your belly hanging over your belt buckle, because that hurt back in the
day. Right now, like clipping my toenails is cardio. I do one at a time. You go like. But okay. So let me see. I got to give 2 pieces of advice, man. Yeah. Small meals. Don't drink calories.
Beautiful.
So what was the other? What else did you want?
I think that was it. There was one more. There was one more thing, but I just can't remember what it was.
That was advice about trying
Physical?
To stay fit.
Yeah.
And then, man, other advice for life in general, man, is just try to always see past the nose on your own face, man. Not everybody is the same, and not every solution will work the same. And just because a woman or two is mean to you doesn't mean all women are going to do it.
Right.
Like if somebody really tells me, like, man, I've had 3 wives and they were all just so mean to me, it's like, well, what's the common denominator, man? You're picking shitty women, dude.
Exactly.
I would say this,
Yeah.
But I'd also say, do it again. I'm on I'm on wife number 5.
Wow. Okay,
And
there you go. Yeah,
I would do it again.
100%.
I would. I'd do it all again.
Mm,
You know, like even wife number 4, that was my karma,
right.
right? Wife number 4 did everything to me that I did to the first 3.
Okay, okay, okay.
And I was like,
Oh,
oh, you know, and you know what I mean? I ate my humble pie. I took it like a man.
yeah.
And I was like, okay. And and I didn't get mad at her. I
Yeah,
was just like, girl, you know, this doesn't got to be ugly.
right.
It's like, you know, like do your thing. I ain't even mad at you.
Okay.
Because you know what? That was my karma, man. And then you know what I did? Then I called up my exes and I was like, you know what?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You know? And then
Yeah.
I take all those lessons and now I'm, you know, Karis, my wife now is amazing,
Yeah,
you know, and everything led me to where I'm at now,
exactly.
you know, because you know what? I would have messed it up with her if I hadn't learned all these lessons, you
Along the
know,
way.
and made mistakes and had people do stuff to me.
Hmm.
So I knew how it felt, I guess.
And also so that you could actually learn from it and implement it. Because that's one thing that I do notice about you is that when you learn a lesson, you you take that knowledge and you implement it, and it
I tried
transpires.
to, yeah, definitely.
Well, no, no, this has happened. Like I saw it in real time. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is impressive.
Um, yeah. Uh, Man, to me, life is, you know, it's about people.
Hmm.
It's about stories.
Yes, sir.
And that's it, I think.
Live a great story, guys. So there you heard it from the man, the myth, the legend, Guy Winks, also known as Sean Essex, aka.
Hey, you know, thanks for having me, man. And I know conversations with me are always all over the place,
Yeah,
man. And we end up on a side quest, and then so I hope it was enjoyable. I hope people out there, if you take away one good thing from listening to me, then that's awesome. I'm glad.
they definitely will. Well,
So,
thank you so much. Where can our viewers find you if they want to be able to support your culinary events?
oh, you know what? We do have Facebook pages. The Advanced Culinary Training Division, Fort Gregg Adams. Also the USACAT, United States Army, or United States Armed Forces Culinary Arts Team. The USACAT has a Facebook page also.
Okay.
You can find me on there.
Okay. What we'll do is we'll post that into the actual little epilogue that we have at the bottom of it, and give them a follow. Well, you guys know where to find us. Thank you so much for viewing us. You can find us on Excalibur Coaching, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as Spotify. I hope that you guys enjoyed the session. Have a great one, guys. Cheers.
All right.